Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to our first 2016 video review. We begin with a lens review and more precisely with the new Olympus 300mm f4 that is designed for micro four thirds cameras. I had the chance to use this lens during the Christmas holidays. I shot mainly wildlife with it, but I also had the chance to use it at a football game. The 300mm f4 Pro is the fifth professional lens produced by Olympus for the micro four thirds system. It has an all-metal and weather-sealed build, and I feel that it is the best Olympus micro four thirds lens as far as build quality is concerned. This is also because it is the largest and heaviest lens designed for the micro four thirds system. I've used the lens with both the OMD M1 that I have right here and also the Panasonic GX8. With both cameras, I find the overall balance and grip comfortable enough, but I won't lie to you, I find the lens a little bit too large and heavy for a micro four thirds camera. Actually, anything smaller than this camera right here would make the combo more uncomfortable. That being said, I used this lens and the OMD M1 at a soccer game. I used it handheld for 90 minutes straight and my arms were a little bit tired only at the end. That doesn't seem too bad to me, especially if we consider that this 300mm gives us the same angle of view on micro four thirds that a Nikon or Canon 600mm would give on a full-frame DSLR. If the lens is too heavy, there is a tripod collar that allows you to use the lens on a tripod or monopod. The collar can be rotated 360 degrees and locked in any position you want. You can also remove it if you don't need it, and Olympus provides a plastic cover to place on the lens instead. The tripod mount is also directly compatible with Arca Swiss tripod heads. The focus ring can be clutched backward to instantly switch to manual focus. Doing so will also reveal the distance scale on the ring. Remember that if you don't like the clutch mechanism, you can disable it with the latest firmware available for the OMD M1, which is firmware 4, or also the M5 Mark II with the firmware 2.1. On the side there is a function button that can be customized and two switches. One is to limit the focus distance to a certain range, and the second will activate or deactivate the optical stabilization. Finally, the plastic lens hood is cleverly designed. To use it, just slide it forward and rotate it 45 degrees to lock it. When you don't need it, you just rotate it in the other direction and slide it backwards. The performance of this lens is excellent as far as sharpness is concerned. You get great results at f4 already. It becomes slightly better from f5.6 to f8, but those three apertures are all perfectly usable. From f11 you start to have some slight diffraction as usual with micro four thirds, but I found the results acceptable up to f16. There isn't any relevant trace of chromatic aberration or vignetting. Another interesting characteristic of this lens is the close focusing distance, which has been a positive aspect with every Pro lens by Olympus for micro four thirds. The 300mm can focus as close as 1.4 meter, which is very good for this type of lens. It allows you to take nice close-ups of small animals around you as long as you can get close to them. Sharpness is excellent even at close distances. There is only one thing I don't really like about this lens, and that is bokeh. It is fine when you try to isolate a subject at a longer distance, but when you have autofocus elements close to the subject in both the foreground and background, like branches on a tree, it can become very nervous. You get hard edges and double lines in the autofocus areas, and the bokeh becomes a little bit too distracting. The 300mm f4 has an internal focusing mechanism that is silent and fast. I didn't find any particular problem when using it with the EM1 or the GX8. In single autofocus, it only struggled with very busy compositions such as this one. Both cameras had a hard time locking the focus and gave the classic back and forth movement. In continuous autofocus, the performance is really good as well. It then really becomes a matter of how the camera can handle focus tracking. With flying birds, for example, I got better results with the M1 because it has phase detection and can also shoot up to 9 frames per second with focus priority. The GX8 struggles a little more at giving constant results. I also had the chance to use the lens with the EM1 at a soccer game. Here the camera struggled more to give constant results. The lens was also very long for this venue, which made it more challenging to follow the very fast action and capture interesting moments. The most interesting characteristic of this lens is the optical stabilization. In fact, it is the first micro four thirds lens designed by Olympus that features optical stabilization. We saw the first prototype of this lens at Photokina in 2014, but there was no any mention about optical stabilization. Olympus then decided to delay the release of this lens to add internal stabilization, and that is a very wise choice in our opinion because it makes this lens more interesting also for Panasonic customers. And the good news is that the internal stabilization is very effective. It's probably one of the best I've used. Now, the result and the way the lens works will vary depending on which camera you use. Concerning Olympus cameras, the OMD EM1 and OMD EM5 Mark II will use the new Sync IS mechanism, meaning both the sensor and optical stabilization to give the best results. If you turn the internal stabilization off on the lens, the 5-axis settings on the camera are disabled. However, if internal stabilization is activated on the lens, you can't disable the in-body stabilization of the camera. For the other OMD and pen cameras, Sync IS is not available. You can choose to use either the lens or sensor stabilization. With Panasonic cameras, you can use the optical stabilization only. That is true also for the GX8 because its dual IS mode is compatible with select Lumix lenses only. I managed to get sharp result down to 1/6 of a second with the GX8 and at 0.4 second with the EM1, which is quite stunning given the longer focal length used. However, bear in mind that for real-world shooting, there are a lot of factors to take into account, and that also includes how stable you are. It is always better to use the fastest shutter speed you can and not rely entirely on the internal stabilization. You can also have shadow shock issues that can be more severe with cameras like the GX8. The lens is also very interesting for video use. Continuous autofocus is much slower with both OMD and Panasonic cameras, so I relied on manual focus most of the time. The focus ring is precise and smooth to use despite being a focus by wire type. Bear in mind that manual focus with this type of lens can require a little bit of practice. Optical stabilization is also very effective for video. So that's it for this video review of the new 300mm 4 by Olympus, and there is one last topic to talk about, and that is the price, because this lens is very expensive. So of course the question is it worth it? Personally, I don't shoot enough wildlife or sports to justify such an investment. But for other photographers it can prove very interesting since it is the first professional extreme telephoto lens for the Micro Four Thirds system. It is also the second lens to be compatible with the MC14 1.4 teleconverter if you need extra reach. So thank you for watching. As usual, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask on this very YouTube video. You can also visit our full review on mirrorlesson.com where you will also find full res image samples. Thank you again and see you next time. Bye bye.